Clay Ferraro, sports anchor and reporter for WPLG Local 10, is here in studio with us. Very exciting. When there's a news guy around for whatever reason, because radio people are just schlubs.
Yeah.
Whenever there's like
news guys, I'm intimidated.
They comport themselves differently.
He just
you know what I mean?
He has an aura. He has an aura like Rick James.
He has an aura. These news guys, I'm telling you, all of them, Will, Clay, Cunio, Donovan Campbell, like they have an aura, and I don't know what it is, but it's a weird sensation because when there is an actual television news person, not writers, not newsprint. I'm talking about television.
Chris Perkins
news
ain't
guys.
doing it to me.
Right. Barry Jackson walks in. Like you don't sit up extra high when Perk and Barry Jackson walk in.
Yeah.
But when Clay Ferraro walks in, like everybody's on edge around here.
Mm-hmm.
You know why though?
There's Moose.
Okay. But he travels with the crew. You know, these television guys, they have cameramen, audio, boom operators. Like he's got a crew of like 6 people here, and it always makes people a little, you know.
I'm looking around. No, what's funny is I think you hit the nail on the head at the end there, because I'm looking around like, Aura, what is he talking about? No, it's because I've got a camera with, like, I've got a cameraman with us. David
it does
Silverbar.
work. It does.
But that's it. I mean, they're not sitting up straight for me. I'm not
they
sitting up
are
straight. They're here.
They are.
Well, Clay, you're a looker though, right? Like you got to admit that you're a looker.
You have to be on TV.
Honestly, not compared to the people in this studio.
No, because you have to be ugly to be on radio. It's one of the prerequisites, but you have to be good looking to be on television.
I'll never forget, like, the first time we were in college and we were doing stuff, and somebody made a comment about somebody having a face for radio. I just thought it was the meanest thing I had ever heard.
I've grown up with that.
That's terrible.
I've grown up with that. That's all I've heard.
My
dad
used
to
Clay.
say that. My dad used to say that to me, and I had no. I didn't even know I was going to go into radio.
Yeah, but I'm putting you guys on television though.
How that's going to affect Channel 10's ratings, and not in the good way. Let's just say Goldie's going to have a lot of viewers that night.
I'm a good-looking dude, Hawk.
How you're not? How excited are you for college football? Because I was mentioning you're doing a story on Local 10 for next week on UMUF. How excited are you? Obviously, it gets underway this Saturday, and the FSU game is a big game because FSU is a big draw down here. But how excited are you for the entire season to get underway?
I don't know about you, but I've gone through like seasons in my sports life, my sports fandom, and I would say, man, going back the last 25-ish years, I'd say college football has been my favorite. Like just everything about it, and really the atmosphere and everything surrounding it. And I will say the loudest stadium I've ever been in, 2005. This was back when CBS would always open the season. Their first SEC game that they would show was always Florida, Tennessee. And I was in the Swamp. It was Urban Meyer's first game. And it was it was Percy Harvin's recruiting trip. Mm-hmm. He was sitting there in the front row, and like his eyes were I was like, all right, he's going to Florida. And end of the game, it was a low scoring game. I can't remember. Final score was like 16-6 or something. It was super low scoring. But I've got photographer next to me, and I've got my hands cupped over my mouth, and I'm yelling what shots that I want him to get. And he just looks at me and he just taps his ear and says he can't hear me. And I am right next to him.
Next to you.
Yeah. Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, it's just because it's built up and down. It's straight up and down. And so the noise is just right on top of you. NFL stadiums get loud. There's just nothing like the level of passion and noise, and it's like angry noise too. Like college football's always been up there for me, and I really enjoy that.
Angry noise, Hawk.
Yeah, they're angry. They're in Gainesville. I mean, that's the most obvious thing. I mean, of course they're angry. The biggest nightlife is Zaxby's.
Hey, I got
hold on now. Zaxby's, now, come on now.
Come on now.
Love the Texas University of Miami. You go to Coconut Grove. You go to Cocoa Walk. You go to South Beach. You're in Gainesville. It's Saturday night. You go, well, we're either going to Guthrie's or we're going to Zaxby's. Of course you're angry.
Coconut Grove is a kennel. All they have is dogs out there licking your leg while you're eating the hamburger. but Clay, this year, though, the first game we're talking about, it's why you're here, UMUF. you know UM's going to play Florida State. You know Florida plays Florida State every single year, but now we have that UM-UF to start the season. Is it what it was in the past? Because you just talked about 05. I was there in 03, 04. Like, is that South Florida or just Florida championship thing still something?
It's such a great question. I don't know in general if rivalries are what they used to be, and maybe I'm wrong on that, but I feel like when you combine this new era with the transfer portal and people going all over the place, and then recruiting isn't necessarily like it used to be, where a lot of it was regionalized, and so like a lot of the people who would grow up in South Florida hating Florida State or hating Florida, well, they'd go to Miami. And you still, and Miami's doing a much better job recently than they had in the past decade or so of keeping those recruits home. But I feel like the world is so much smaller now because of technology and all that, and people going around. I'm saying all this because a lot of these kids, these recruits, don't grow up with the same level of hate because they end up going to some of these other schools that maybe their parents like.
That's actually a good point, because it used to be, if you were in South Florida, 90% of the kids were either going to go to UF, like good recruits, FSU, or UF.
Yeah.
Yep.
But now it's so much more spread out.
And you would grow up, and I would imagine you would grow up and you're choosing between the two. And if your buddy chooses somewhere else, and then all of a sudden, like that anger that it builds, and more so than just you want to beat your best friend. No, it's you chose to go to the school that I didn't. And so I just feel like some of that's different now. With that said, I still feel like the passion from fans is there, and that's still, to bring it kind of full circle, that's why there's just nothing like a big college football game for me. And it's a big college football game in a team's stadium. The neutral site stuff is fun. It feels like for bowl games, like it's fun and all that, but in a team stadium where either those 80,000, 90,000 people are going to be excited and walk out like puffing their chest and all that, or they're going to walk out just devastated, and the other team is going to be celebrating on their field, and they're going to have bragging rights for a couple of years that they won at their place.
With what you're talking about, it kind of hurt me. The national championship was Howard Schnellenberger, the state of Miami and all that.
Yeah.
The national championship used to run through Florida.
Yep.
With the realignment, with NIL, with that. Can we ever get back there? Because now even last year, it's Georgia, it's Michigan. Now they're talking about USC, Texas. Like that thing that whoever wins the state of Florida is going to be right there in the national championship. Clay, I'm a Gator. I hate to say, I don't know if that'll ever be that way again.
I don't think so.
It's. I was reading something today on ESPN, and I'd actually heard this going back a ways. I went to Virginia Tech, and there was a booster who was talking about this, where this, and I'm talking like a year and a half ago, this is what was being mentioned. Because you hear about the realignment stuff and where is it going? You're going to have two power to where I think the ultimate end game, a lot of people feel, is going to be like these two super conferences that are divided like the AFC and the NFC are in the NFL. And so I feel like, I do feel like there's still going to be that passion from fans and from graduates and people who have a certain connection to the schools that goes beyond even their NFL fans. But I don't know that when you're starting to treat, because listen, I don't know that if you're an NFL player that played for a team or a number of teams, that you maybe have the same sort of like passion about the team that you played for than the school you went to. And a lot of you only went to, and I'll ask you, and maybe I'm putting you on the spot here, Channing, but like, do you have a connection, a passion? We live in South Florida, but like I see you got the Gators tattoo. I mean, there's a level of passion there, I think, that goes with your school. And when you're turning college football more and more into the NFL, I don't know that the players are going to have the same level of passion for their school that maybe they did back in the day when you chose the school, you stayed there and you graduated or you went to the NFL.
I remember a drunken night where Ted Ginn he already had an Ohio State tattoo, and he was about to get a Dolphin tattoo. And I remember talking to him like, big dog, you know they're going to like trade you sooner or later or cut you. Like that Florida thing was saying. That's why I got a Florida tattoo. I do not have a Dolphin tattoo. So to your point, where it's about money now and it's about, the power and all that stuff, it's kind of like, Is college turning into the NFL with money? It really is. Because if I would have left the Dolphins and went to New England, I think a lot of Dolphins fans might not like me right now.
But you'd have bounced around in the NIL days. But if you were going to college in the NIL days, you would have bounced around like everybody else does. Like you can. Cam Ward was having a great career at Washington State, but you go, where the next payday is, which is now in college, and you go where the next excitement is. You'd have bounced around.
I took the check already.
Well, yeah, you bounced into the NFL.
Yeah. No, I took the early check.
Allegedly. Can you, when you're talking about yourself, can you go allegedly?
Well, there's a statute of limitations, I believe.
So you can erase the allegedly now.
What do you think is? By the way, I don't know if I ever really realized that you went to Virginia Tech. How does the Virginia Tech Enter Sandman beginning of a football game register compared to other? Because it on television, that looks like a bucket list item.
This is the best way I can explain it. It's the best. But the very first time that it happened, nobody knew it was going to happen. It was the kickoff game between Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech back in 2000. Reggie Ball was the Georgia Tech quarterback. Michael Vick was coming off his freshman year. They went to the national championship game. And I had a buddy that came to the game. This was my senior year at Virginia Tech. And I had a buddy that came to the game. I was a big Georgia Tech fan. And he's talking all sorts of trash, like leading up to the game, like Reggie Ball, man, he's going to get you guys. And so we go into the stadium. He's still talking. Starts to rain a little bit. And then all of a sudden we hear Enter Sandman start. And we're like looking at each other like, what is this? And then up on the video board starts a montage of the highlights from the national championship season. And people just lose their minds. I mean, lose it. We had no idea this was coming. It was the first time. Gets to the end, my buddy turns to me and he goes, yeah, there's no way in hell Georgia Tech's winning this game. And then, I kid you not, lightning struck. Lightning struck Lee Corso's car because they had College Game Day there. This is a 100% true story. Game was never played. So they played Enter Sandman. A lightning storm comes, strikes Lee Corso's rental car.
That's a better night than the football
game. Was unbelievable. But, and I think, I'm sure it's one of those things where like a million people will tell you that they were there. There aren't a million people who follow Virginia Tech as much as I love them, but like maybe 200,000 people will tell you they were there. But for the 70,000 or so of us that were, like, you knew instantly this is something. Now I'll show my kids now the video. My kids are 7, 9, and 10. And they like to play hype songs before their basketball games.
Enter Sandman's games. One of them.
And they're like, Daddy, play the Virginia Tech song. Because I showed him the song, the entrance video where the old ladies are jumping up and down and stuff.
Cool.
And
it is so cool.
It is. And yes, I'm biased. I'll freely admit that. But I want people who judge these things to like go there and then compare it to something else and then tell me.
Florida Gators.
You better not bring up Mr.
I was going to give you
I'm
credit.
Punch you in
I was going to give you credit. I really was. This Mr. Two Bits is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Okay, but that's no.
Clay, you've been in Ben
what
Hills
what I'm going to tell you is after Tom Petty passed away and they started playing Don't Back Down. And the entire, because they didn't know that they were going to do it more than that one week in honor of Tom Petty, who was from Gainesville. And now they do it every week. And that's a cool moment.
Okay.
That's very cool.
Thank you.
The 2 bits you can throw right out the window.
What do they do before the game? I don't know if they still do it, but I just remember from that Florida-Tennessee game, they did before the game, the lights went down and then I don't know why I want to keep saying Mystery Science Theater 3000, but it was some song that they played before the game that got, and then the lights started flickering a little bit. And that's it. By the way, that's when I looked over at Percy Harvin and his eyes were like huge.
Here come the Gators. That's when I realized, Clay, the first time when I was at UF and I'm like, this is different, is when they say that, like, and they'll dim the lights and it says, here come the Gators. And 96,000 people scream at the top of their lungs. And I'm standing under the stadium. And it's the first time I felt the ground shake under my feet. And I was like, this is amazing. Mr. Two Bits gets a little rumble.
Well,
wait a second.
Allow me to tell you something.
Here come the Gators.
Allow me to tell you something.
To let the team come out is special, Hawk. What do y'all have? Because y'all don't have a stadium.
I thought the Hurricanes were going to win on the 31st. I was going to lay the points, but I think the Hurricanes are going to win straight up. I had no idea that they yell, "Here come the Gators." I mean, mind blown. So you're telling me at a football game, some guy gets on the microphone, he yells, "Here come the Gators."
No.
Had I known that, I wouldn't have put the house on the Hurricanes. That sounds like a deal breaker for the Canes.
Let's say, "Here come the Gators," like a newscaster. Here come the Gators.
Hold on here.
Now you hold on here. Wow.
Here come the Gators.
Now, how many
breaking news here. Here come the Gators.
How many focus groups did they put through to come up with "Here come the Gators"?
And y'all just spray some damn fire extinguishers.
Yeah,
huh?
that's right.
And have a little bird twist his beak around.
Right.
That's what y'all want to do, huh?
Don't call Sebastian a little bird.
Let that little bird run out and twist his beak.
I will say this though for Canes fans. I remember was it 2017 where the Canes had that really good season? Braxton
the Notre Dame
Berrios
game.
And
You're talking about the Notre Dame game?
I'm actually talking about the Virginia Tech game the weekend before because they play. I think it was back-to-back weekends. They played Virginia Tech then Notre Dame. Notre Dame was louder than Virginia Tech, but Bud Foster, the Virginia Tech defensive coordinator, said that this was after they had kind of closed the canopies at Hard Rock Stadium. Bud Foster said that was one of the loudest road atmospheres that we've ever been in. And they used to play in the old Orange Bowl against Miami.
Crowder was marveling because we were at that Notre Dame game.
Stupid.
It was great.
It was insane.
So there is, you're right. People can joke about not having a stadium. There is an atmosphere when Miami is good for big games, and even at Hard Rock Stadium.
When you're winning, that Hard Rock Stadium, that Notre Dame game was the first time where you were like, this feels like the Orange Bowl.
Yes.
Like
that little bitty DB picked one off and ran it back.
Yes.
Trajan Bandit.
Yes.
That was one of the loudest, as a spectator, times I've ever seen in the stadium.
That place rocked. Remember, it was like
really. We were sitting looking at each other while he was running it back, and it was stupid.
Man, so they go, "Here come the Gators."
Y'all have a bird that twists his beak with a fire extinguisher.
So then what should I expect after they yell, "Here come the Gators"? What should I expect then?
You know what I would expect? A fire extinguisher and a bird.
Clay Ferraro from Local 10. Thank you for coming in studio.
I got to add this. I felt awful because you guys never come in studio. So when I asked you guys if we could do this,
cover, Clay,
thank
all the
you.
Listeners, we appreciate that.
Oops.
I forgot how to get here.
My bad.
Our GM Claudia doesn't even know that we don't show up here.
I had to put the studio on Google Maps. I was like, where again?
Here goes Clay. Clay Ferraro from Local 10. Appreciate your time, Clay.
Anytime, guys. Although I don't think you're going to have me back after I blew your cover.